The faint glow of neon signs flickered against the darkening sky as Malik parked his dusty pickup truck in front of Elliot's Taproom, a modest bar just off Highway 74 in North Carolina. Malik had just returned from a year-long deployment overseas, and all he wanted was a quiet moment to himself before diving back into the demands of everyday life. The bar wasn't anything fancy, just a local favorite for truckers, veterans, and anyone looking for a cold drink and a bit of peace. Pushing open the creaky door, Malik stepped inside, immediately hit by the sound of chatter and the hum of an old jukebox playing Johnny Cash. His eyes scanned the room, noting the usual crowd, a couple of regulars playing pool, a group of men laughing at the bar, and a few loners nursing beers in silence. He didn't come here to make friends, just to decompress. Finding an empty table in the back, he slid into a corner, ordering a glass of water. His camouflage uniform blended into the dim ambience, save for the scuffed sneakers on his feet, chosen for comfort over appearance. His thoughts drifted to his family, the warmth of his mother's cooking and the sound of his niece's excited voice. It had been too long since he'd been home. But just as he was about to lose himself in his memories, the door slammed open. A group of 6 men entered, their heavy boots echoing on the wooden floor. They were older, their leather jackets adorned with patches and insignias that clearly marked them as veterans. Malik didn't pay them much attention at first, but the leader, a burly man with a salt and pepper beard and piercing eyes, noticed Malik right away. He froze mid-laugh, giving Malik a long, evaluating look. His group followed suit, their laughter fading into a tense silence. Malik stayed calm, sipping his water and trying to ignore the weight of their stares. He had learned to tune out this kind of judgment over the years. But one of the men muttered something, and Malik could feel the shift in the room's energy. The group huddled around the bar, whispering to each other. The leader cast a pointed glance in Malik's direction, and the murmur of their conversation was filled with subtle mockery. The group of men, led by the burly leader, began making their way toward Malik's table. The sound of their boots thudded against the floor, drowning out the jukebox. The room seemed to hold its breath, the usual chatter replaced by an uneasy silence. The bartender paused mid-pour, and a few of the regulars exchanged wary looks. The leader stopped in front of Malik, his eyes never leaving him. "Hey," he barked, his voice rough. "Nice uniform you got there. Where'd you get it? A Halloween store?" His voice was laced with disdain, and his group erupted into laughter. Malik didn't flinch. "It's mine," he said evenly. "Earned it." The leader raised an eyebrow, his smirk widening. "Earned it, huh? That's funny. I've seen plenty of real soldiers, and none of them wear sneakers with their fatigues. You trying to play dress up for sympathy? Or maybe a free drink?" Malik's jaw tightened, but his voice remained steady. "I don't need sympathy or free drinks. I'm just here to relax." The leader leaned in closer, his breath sour with beer. "You don't look like a soldier to me. Where's your boots? Your tags? Hell, you probably don't even know how to salute properly." One of the men behind him added, "Bet he couldn't tell us the first thing about basic training." Another chimed in, "Probably never seen a battlefield in his life." Malik stayed silent, his body language relaxed but his mind alert. He had been through worse. His years in the service had taught him how to stay composed under pressure. But something about this encounter stung. It wasn't just the words, it was the audacity and ignorance behind them. "I don't need to prove anything to you," Malik said, his voice calm but firm. The leader's smirk turned into a sneer as he loomed closer, his large frame intimidating. "You think you're a hero, huh? Walking in here like you belong? I don't think you do." Malik met his gaze unflinchingly. "I've served 3 tours overseas," he said, his voice steady but carrying a sharp edge. "I don't need your approval to belong anywhere." For a brief moment, the room fell into an uneasy silence. The leader hesitated, his bravado faltering. But pride wouldn't let him back down. "Prove it," he scoffed. "Show us your tags. Otherwise, you're nothing but a liar." The room seemed to hold its breath as the tension mounted. Malik remained composed, his military training kicking in. He didn't owe them an explanation, but he wasn't about to let them start something that could escalate. "I don't owe you proof," Malik said firmly. But if you think starting something here is a good idea, I suggest you think again. Before anyone could react, the leader lunged forward, grabbing at Malik's collar. His movements were clumsy, driven by anger rather than skill. But Malik was faster. In one swift motion, he sidestepped the grab, catching the leader's wrist midair and twisting his arm behind his back. Using his own weight, he shoved the man face first onto the edge of the table. The room went silent. The remaining men froze, their eyes wide in shock as their leader struggled against Malik's grip. I told you to think twice before starting something. Malik's voice cut through the quiet, low and controlled. You don't know who you're messing with. One of the bikers stepped forward, his hands raised in a half-hearted attempt to defuse the situation. Hey man, let him go. He didn't mean anything by it. Malik's gaze hardened. He came at me. You saw it. The bartender, who had been watching the scene unfold, finally spoke up. Maybe it's time for you all to leave before this gets worse. Hank, still pinned by Malik, growled. Call the cops. This guy just assaulted me. He's impersonating a soldier, and I want him arrested. Malik released Hank with a controlled shove, sending the man stumbling forward. As Hank staggered, he turned to glare at Malik. You'll pay for this, he hissed. Outside, the sound of sirens grew louder. The police arrived, 2 officers stepping into the bar, a broad-shouldered man and a woman with a sharp, watchful demeanor. The male officer looked around. We got a call about an altercation. Can someone explain what happened? Hank was the first to speak. This guy assaulted me. He's wearing a fake uniform. Malik stood calmly. I'm a real soldier. He and his friends confronted me, and when he tried to grab me, I defended myself. The female officer turned to the bartender. Did anyone witness what happened? The bartender nodded. I saw it. Hank went after him first. That soldier just reacted to protect himself. The officer turned back to Malik. Do you have any proof of your service? Malik nodded, pulling his military ID and uniform from his bag. After inspecting them, the officers confirmed his identity. The male officer turned to Hank's group, saying, You're lucky he's not pressing charges for assault. False accusations are a serious matter. Defeated, Hank mumbled, You'll regret this. The group quickly left, their bravado replaced by shame. The bar returned to its normal hum, and Malik sat back down, his drink still untouched. He had won, but the victory felt hollow. Still, it was one step closer to proving that he belonged, no matter how others tried to tear him down.